internet and cloud is becoming more prevalent, how do you ensure a cloud-first, internet-first performant network? Since one cloud service cannot meet your versatile requirements, how can you enable seamless multi-cloud connections? How do you support hybrid workplace while ensuring a converged network and security to protect the broken network perimeter? How to build agility in your network to support the changing business need and cope with an emergency? And that brings us to today's conversation. With that, I would like to invite Mr. Hari Nair, Vice President and Head of Global Solutions at Tata Communication, to share his industry observation and give an industry context before we kick off the conversation with our eminent panelist. Hari?
So, I think we have had a lot of speakers in these sessions who have touched upon a very similar topic. And from our perspective, when we are interacting with our customers, one thing which we are commonly seeing is while the board and the other people want the flexibility, how do you execute it is pretty much your problem. Okay, people in this room have to grapple with it. And the push is, we want flexibility, we want it now, we want everything, at the click of the button, and the marketing teams are, pushing in that direction. One challenge is how do you create that, platform or the structure for them to actually do that. And when it has to be open, the minute it is open, and I can see that there are many people who are from the finance, if they are from the finance sector, regulations become a huge and humongous problem of me keeping tap of it. So on the one side, we have the challenge where we work with a CDO / CIO organization. The idea is that speed is there, technology is there, the business use case quite often is there, but there is a risk management officer who immediately comes back and says, Bhaiya, ye nahi kar sakte, ye nahi kar sakta, this is not compliant. So that's the challenge which I anticipate that most of you are regularly facing. It's somewhere in between that, where there is a compelling event, especially for a customer environment. If you are trying to build something for your end customer acquisition, then that's something which we have seen, is something which we have seen a lot of value. So when there is a customer use case and a customer development cycle, then that's something which we have seen it being the most progressive in terms of digital, and the support from the CISO is also, kind of something which is supported. So that's something which we have seen more and more play out. Yeah.
So with that, I think Hari, as you have set the context right, let's understand from our panelists here, what are the key drivers of infra modernization in their view? So maybe Sridharji would like to start with you at Karur Vysya.
After pandemic, the digital transaction volume is increasing multiple folds. Even if you predict the WD time, the volumes within a year, it is becoming 3 times or 4 times increasing. You take UPI transactions. So government and RBI told there is no charges for it. Even the small roadside merchants, they are putting QR code based payments. Transactions are increasing like anything. So you cannot afford downtime or anything. Continuously transactions should be going on. So in that scenario, IT modernization and hardware should be capable of accepting all these transactions and give the response without any latency. So in this thing, modernization is highly important. So whether your on-prem solutions are capable or your private cloud you are going to do, or HCI or public cloud you are going, based on your industries and what is the cost, risk involved in it, you have to take a wise decision.
Thanks. With that, since I'm just noting, of course, thank you Atanuji, thanks for joining, thanks Chetanji. Thanks for both of you to come in here. As we noted one view here from Karur Vysya, Mr. Malge would like to understand so that we know the perspective of banking, then I will go around the manufacturing businesses here and
basically with digital, the client interface is changing very fast, and the mode of accessing service or delivering service is changing. So legacy technology applications are not really amenable. So when we talk of facing the digital world, basically we are talking of how things can be available or application services can be available from multiple form factors. Previously, nobody thought of making banking available on a mobile or a tab. Okay, the best we saw in our days was ATMs. Then net banking came, then tab banking, then now mobile banking. And with this mobile banking, the number of transactions, so the ticket size have really gone low, and the volumes have gone up. So, firstly, the application has to be written in a horizontally scalable model. Okay, so we don't see much of a scope for vertical scalability, etc. So virtualization technologies are very necessary. Like you said, UPI volumes. So are designed for handling UPI volumes or the LIC, IPO, etc. We simply spin additional VMs and make similar services available. So whether that can be done in cloud or that can be done on-prem, that's a different thing. But the applications basically have to adapt to horizontal scalability. And I have said throughout, it is not much of a variation on banking services, but these are two recent instances where there was huge load, especially in case of LIC IPO. For weeks together we were doing testing because there were government guidelines that no transaction should go, fail or something like that. So for digital world, I have to say that it should start with well-designed applications which are amenable for horizontal scaling, either microservices, Kubernetes, Docker, whatever you want to use. And you should have enough capacity either in terms of cloud or local bandwidth to scale as the demand grows.
Right.
That's
I think thanks for summarizing that perspective of a two banking organization, what I just noted. With that, I again to just get to the speed of panelists who just joined us. See, we are talking about modernizing your IT infrastructure for a digital businesses, and we just started off the conversation by noting what are the key business drivers for you to rethink the whole, the infra modernization approach. So with that, let me bring in now the view of Mr. Ghanekar so that we complete the loop of BFSI and then I go to manufacturing side of, and I followed by Mr. Ghanekar, I would like to invite a view of Ms. Patil. Go ahead, sir. Can I have mics please there?
With the advent of Corona and democratization of data bandwidth through Geo and other vendors, there is an enormous growth that has happened in the online mode of transactions. And these are not what you can say linear type of growth curves, but they are logarithmic type of growth curves in the sense that the multiplicity of the revenues and multiplicity of transactions have grown into 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, So no on-prem type of systems were able to cater to such a great demand. So naturally, most of the organizations in BFSI have partly gone on to the cloud environment to cater to the increased demand. And the next thing is the new millennial crowd that is getting as customers. They require everything now and right now, not necessarily even after 1 minute or 2 minutes of delays. So you have to have that speed of transaction built into the system, and that could be built through the extreme usage of high bandwidth systems and high transaction systems. So hyperscale hardware and great network connectivity is the only solution that can cope with these sorts of demands that have arisen in the new systems.
Thank you. With that, I think thanks for articulating that view. I'd like to hear from Ms. Patil because I think in afternoon panel also ma'am, you did mention some of the important, but I think for the benefit of the panel here, maybe you would want to retouch base again.
So I completely agree with whatever has been said, but I want to talk about something different. I'm saying when we talk of modernization, one really has to look at the application modernization, because unless and until your applications are really built for the cloud, I don't think, at least for our industry, a lift and shift approach will really work. And that journey, when we didn't take some time back, but I think that is how the journey should be taken: modernize, and then only you can go to the cloud. Otherwise, we will not be able to leverage the benefits of the cloud. Infrastructure, I still think, is a little easy to handle, because this is kind of standard, whereas applications are built for an organization. So to modernize that does mean rebuilding it, and which is something that one has been doing, and it is something that one will have to continue to do. The other element that I want to talk about is the security, and it is security is paramount, right, for all of us, but unfortunately the security solutions are very, very scattered. There are niche solutions which take care of a problem, and it is left up to the CIOs to really stitch all those security solutions together and ensure that the ecosystem that has been built by them for their customers is really, really secure. And I'm not talking of the cost of security, because the cost of security is also increasing exponentially. From a business point of view, the challenge that we face, I would say, is twofold. One is our business is very, very cyclical. While it is not really a real-time business like a banking or an e-commerce, but it is so cyclical that impossible to handle the skewed workloads during the month ends or the year ends. Not only on-prem, but unless the applications are modernized even on the cloud, it will be really, really difficult to handle.
Right tendency.
Thanks, Ms. Patel, for that. You know, while I think you have just really touched upon a very important aspect of, from a BFSI point of view, I think, for a BFSI organization to be ahead of the curve for a new customer acquisition also, I think they have to really look at the whole app modernization and at the same time keep the network app secure. Let's hear the views of, some of our friends from manufacturing side and the services. Kodeji, what you think in your side of business that pushes you to infra modernization now?
Yeah, I think on top of what was already said, so I won't repeat those, but it's also a
Yeah.
problem. Whether it is BFSI or manufacturing, it's still there. But on the manufacturing side, what we have seen is, especially in automotive, there is a milk run concept where you are, as a B2B manufacturer, you are very close to the OEM. And this makes your plant spread across the geography,
Right.
whether it is India or India. Now the problem what COVID showed is that overnight the people who were trained vanished. Okay, so you're built for efficiency, but will have to be built your infrastructure, people, process, technology for resilience. I think that is one thing which is coming into the strategy of modernization and is seeping into the roadmaps. There is a lot of focus on BCP driven through IT. So that is one thing at least which is happening in Varroc. The other thing that is other challenges, Ukraine, then chip shortage is leading to being a part of electronic as a product, as a manufacturing, where chip is a very key component. What we have also seen is the earlier set of BI reports or analytics that we had is not working because we are not able to forecast the shortage well in advance, which means that you are basically stopping somebody else's line, assembly line and the product line, whether it is a two-wheeler, four-wheeler or anything like that. So that is forcing us to get into a phase where build technology, where you are able to not only forecast the shortage, because the OEM doesn't want to hear about the problem, they also want solution, because they have made a contract with you and they expect you to solve the problem. And it's plainly said that chip shortage is your problem, you solve it. Now how do you solve it? You cannot go and tell Taiwan to increase their capacity, right? So it's at least in the PCB manufacturing capability that we have, we also started looking at alternate parts. Like if you are supplying to Pulsar, Boxer, Royal Enfield, the same component goes on the PCB. So instead of this, can you give a equivalent capacitor which you have in stock? So you negotiate with OEM, and for that you need tech, because it's so much data that it's humanly not possible to do in Excel sheet or any other technology. So I think that's where we have tackled the problem. The other is MRP is being used by everybody, but like 1 month firm and 3 months or 4 month of forecast is not working. All the chip manufacturer asking for 24 months. Overnight this problem has gone multifold, and the same tool set is not working. You have to enhance the tool set to do that. So that, and the visibility of stock at the dealers, so you're now moving outside your perimeter and still trying to solve the problem, is building a technology which you can share with your downstream and upstream like vendor or OEM. So we also ask OEM what is the stock with you, and then we also ask the vendor and the distributor what is the stock, and build that database inside your data warehouse so that you can use that data to do the forecasting. So I think that is another piece of thing that we are working on as a manufacturer. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Kodeji. I think this state of problem, actually the chip shortages, is something interesting to note. Yeah.
Actually, whatever discussed so far, it was well accepted. Means this is actually the real problem or real advice what to do. As per my point of view, we need to go with the trend. What modern technologies are coming, like adoption of cloud and all. See, what I am thinking, like today we are building in-house data center servers, and adopting inside that also there are virtualization and so others, that hyper converge, software defined storage, all those things. But there could be a chance, I don't know, means this is, I'm thinking a bit high. You will not get server in the market. I mean, people will not sell, so you will be forced to go to cloud at some point of time. That could happen, and at that time, you have only option. So we should be ready, at least by doing all the analysis and all, and of course the application, we should have whatever application. See, in our manufacturing, we have the applications, those are built long back, and those are legacy, and we cannot leave it, because main core operations, core you can say traceability and quality, all those are in the old application only. So we cannot go to the cloud. If I have evaluated as a infrastructure as a service, if I go there and if I host our old application, that will be very, very costly affairs. So if there is some SaaS based application there in the if that we can develop, so that will be good. So we are also looking in that angle also. So at present, whatever we have, main is MES, basically manufacturing execution system. So we are thinking of we are upgrading our application to MES 1.0 to 1.2 1.0 to 2. So where we have already suggested that you use all the standard application, not develop in-house, and after some time it should not become again legacy, and maybe after 10 years, 20 years the same problem comes. So that's how we are actually moving towards modernization.
Let me just tweak up my question a bit before I go to Mr. Rambal and Vistare. Both you come from manufacturing side and also represent the infra side of business. So what are those 2 or 3 things that IT leaders must ask before they sort of look at their infra modernization strategy? Are only the various cloud management, or is it only a scale, or are there any issues pertaining to network and data management also are sort of bigger concern? Maybe would like to hear that.
I'll say as a manufacturing side, as he also rightly said, network is a main challenge. So that's why most of the manufacturing units, don't migrate their core application onto the cloud, because you can't have a downtime there. You need a very fast response, right? But apart from that, during the COVID times, there has been a lot of learning, right? So like I'll give an example of our company. We have around 3 call centers by which we are operating, right? So almost around 850 seats call center. Now, since lockdown was there, so we had a very tough time, for managing the customer calls during that particular time, because all the 3 call centers were shut. So somehow around 100 to 150 users, somehow we managed through VPN, and somehow we got connected. But yes, the time has come when we have to merge the sales and the service, because currently the sales goes in their own way and the service goes in their own way. So we have roughly around 50 million customer which are there, and every month we add around 3.5 lakh customer in our service network. So all these 3 have to be now merged, and time has come to give them one single omni-channel platform where all the service as well as sales and can be merged together and come to on a single platform. And I'm sure those kind of things can easily be moved on to the cloud, apart from the core applications which are basically used particularly for the manufacturing side. Still, I think my opinion is that manufacturing will still continue to work on a hybrid model instead of adopting everything on the cloud.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for touching upon that concerning area. What do you think, Tarik?
Yeah, so I've heard a couple of points and I would like to build it further. Specifically from a manufacturing side and being L&T, there are pockets of us, we are diversified. So there are pockets which are defense related, which are, very, very secured related things. So one thing is you need to convince and you need to prove how secure your data would be when you want to really go on cloud. So I take your point that for manufacturing kind of businesses, it would take some time for us to go completely on cloud. It would remain always as a hybrid model, at least for some times to come, because some portion of thing you may not be able to go there and you really want to keep it in closed environment, entirely internal. But at the same time, the other point from an application perspective, which I would wish to focus on what ma'am said, that the applications, the way they have been built, and because it is diversified business, they are being built as per their requirements. So obviously they are not cloud ready. So you either have to really rip and apart and kind of rewrite those applications completely to make it cloud ready, or you choose to have a hybrid model, because you cannot really move it as it is to the cloud, because they were written in a format which was not meant for cloud. So I think these 2 things needs to be taken care of. One is the security, which is a paramount importance, and second thing is how do we make the application cloud ready, given the fact that you work in a diversified environment. Thank you. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Sain. Chetanji and Atanuji, maybe I think we'll close the loop of manufacturing side. So if you could,
right? Yeah. See, today I think the topic is always like been how do we really respond to the dynamic business scenarios, and sustainability becomes a very paramount importance, right? Particularly in if I talk about my resource industries, we have a multi-fold strategy. One is basically where enterprise applications are definitely we adopted a cloud-first approach where it is going there and trying to do kind of a democratization so that the kind of new millennium workforce what we have can really leverage the data analytics and really add value to the business. So that is one part of it. At the same time, as a part of a digital transformation initiatives, we have a big program running on in terms of advanced process controls using AI and ML. Okay, that calls for a kind of a edge computing requirement. Apart from that, what she mentioned and other people also mentioned is that application modernization. There are a whole set of applications which are actually old, right? And when we are going to the kind of cloud native world, that requires a kind of a modernization, uplift on that, including the cybersecurity aspect, right? Because that also need to have a fresh look on that. So that is what we are doing. At the same time, infrastructure also requires a complete relook, basically, right? Because particularly we are in underground mines right now. Now in underground mines, when you actually carry out, and we are running a concept of digital mine. So that means all our earth moving equipments, all our machines underground are real-time monitored, traffic management, AI ML modeling, and those kind of health analytics and all the things are happening for asset utilization perspective. At the end of the day, asset utilization is the biggest important aspect for the resource industry. But underground mine, the challenge is that the very traditional components of network won't work. Their GPS won't work, or the kind of Wi-Fi's setup which we have will not work, because the underground environment is very harsh. Moisture, the kind of vibration, the kind of noise level, and etc. Right? And with the really small pathways, even the laying of optical fiber gets cut off on. Even if you lay that, it is always a catch-up game, because you are developing your minds further and further every day, and you have to always catch up to that. So if you have to leverage those digital IoT platform or IoT capability for those digital mind concept, the network requirement is completely different now. That's where we are looking at a private 5G or LoRaWAN or other kind of a concept where we don't have to depend on the wired optical fiber so much and still leverage the whole digital capabilities what we want to build on top of that. So that's very exactly important thing. On surface side also the similar thing in terms of since these are all remote sites, mines are remotes basically, and many of your applications are centralized and cloud. So thankfully the investment by ISPs have done in terms of laying the optical fiber, but there may not be basically kind of a redundancy may not be there most of the places also. So there also we have done actually SD-WAN concept with the multiple redundancy, but that is also something which we are continuously relooking as a network architecture per se. So that's how the whole this thing. So three things basically: one, application modernization. Secondly, once since application modernization happening and the whole digital transformation happening, the IT infrastructure also to be relooked, redesigned whole way to make that capable. Because at the end of the day, digital experience will be killed unless that infrastructure is not placed, right? And the third is that the security also will have a relook, because now we are more going to the IoT device and all those kind of stuff. So all put together, actually, we are driving that, because one will not serve the purpose. So that's my take.
Thank you. I think some very important aspect, and therefore maybe after this Atanuj's reaction, maybe I'll invite reaction of Hari again here, because this, managing this critical infrastructure in a remote location is a very important point.
Right. I think most of the points and topics are covered by the panel members. So I'll touch upon some of the probably slightly deeper aspects. I agree with Kirti when she mentioned about application modernization, right? Now, with the cloud coming into play, application is one part of it, the fitment of that application to be placed on cloud. But to make it secure, safe, from the security side of it, you have to think of so many other things, right? The cloud DMZ, just to name a few, right? To make your application more secure, you might have to deploy solutions like WAF, right? You also need to think of, obviously in the current world, DLP, the application DLP as well as endpoint DLP, right? So these are a few of the things in the security side of it. Now when you talk of the earlier days of integration between applications, one is the way the applications were written, two is the way the integrations were written. Most of the integrations were either DB links or hard point-to-point integrations. Today's world, more so when you are moving to cloud, your applications need to be ready for microservices, SWAP, REST APIs and all those stuff. So your technology landscape changes when you're moving to cloud, right? Not only the infrastructure, the application technology landscape will change, right? Even from the security perspective, depending on how you are kind of positioning your applications, probably the application microsegmentation need to come in, right, to secure them. That's on the application side of it. On the network side of it, what Chetan mentioned, I agree totally that in case of mines, in case of underground mines, though we have only one, most of them are open cast mines. And also the big plants. One of our plant is 3,500 acre, one plant, right? Now, it's impossible to lay fiber cables or anything through wired connectivity. In today's world, in every nook and corner of the plant, the business wants connectivity. So private LTE becomes important, right? On the other side of it, what we are kind of sensing with every single renewal of the cloud platforms, any of those big four, right? The licensing strategy is changing, addition to everything else, right? I'll take an example. In one of the cloud providers, we had a BYOL on Microsoft OS platforms, right? And they were on the core basis. Now, before this last renewal, we had the leverage of having the on-premise Microsoft license to be able to position it on the cloud. In the new renewal, they have cut it off. That your on-premise enterprise agreement will not be applicable, right? Now, on and above that, all those are core-based license. Now, then it becomes to optimize your cloud installation of the application. You have to see where you have a high compute situation where you will be using lesser number of cores for the same application, and hence you will be consuming lesser cost on your licensing. So there are multiple nitty-gritties are coming into the play now. It is not only cloud or no cloud. It is not only hybrid or multi-cloud. It is a multiple nitty-gritties those are coming into the play to be able to be ahead of time, ahead of TCO and all those stuff.
Thank you. Thanks. I think, therefore, I think some of the points you mentioned are very pertinent, and hence I want to bring in Hari back here in conversation. Hari. Dhaval? Yeah, Dhaval, please, if you can contribute. We have Dhaval and Sandesh also to complete the
So I think very little remains after the round table. But I think it's, not really. But what I would say is that yes, the crux of the point is that hardware modernization cannot be looked in at isolation. That's pretty established, and like Kirti said it's normally a course of app modernization that results in hardware modernization, unless and until you are end of a refresh cycle, and then you are investing in a new hardware that too which will provide some hardware security to you. Right, so unless and until that, those are the kind of capabilities, because today there is a lot of talk of protecting data in memory, and they need certain hardware capabilities also to be available as a part of the security fold. So yes, and I think one of the bigger factors driving it is also that what domain are you in actually, and what is your application landscape. For example, if you're largely a package solution and a commercial off the shelf or maybe a SaaS kind of a consumer, and then there are only fewer applications which remain as a part of your custom build, there is very little that you'll do even in terms of the app modernization, because there it's the OEM's responsibility to modernize the application or make it available. And I say it because it's a factor of domain, because we are in pharma and financial services. So while in financial services we are always talking about custom building, looking at serverless, looking at microservices, horizontal scaling, vertical scaling. In pharma we are happy to adopt off-the-shelf solutions because they are largely compliant to the regulatory requirements, which is also extremely important. And every time we build an application of our own, there is a huge checklist that you have to go through to ensure that it is compliant, and and Atanu is not here, and he would agree that you have to go through something called as a validation, which is a very long drawn process, because it somewhere impacts the product that you're manufacturing, impacts health or life of somebody. So that's the checklist that you have to go through. So coming back, I think hardware modernization in isolation is not really a discussion, at least in organizations that I have been a part of. It's always a larger discussion around app modernization as applicable, and if possible, look at if there, and the driving factor has always been customer demand. If the customer demand presses you that you develop a particular kind of application, which in turn demands a particular kind of hardware capability. So you look at only memory, storage and compute. don't really look at hardware as a hardware, and the thought process with us is very largely that you look at memory, storage, compute, and only invest in hardware unless if that's the last option that you have to adopt. Otherwise, go with cloud, where you will get all the kind of flexibility, scalability. You're not tying up to a particular capex investment also, and you will get the flexibility to move on. For example, if you have to increase the GPU tomorrow because of video analytics or visual analytics, or you're doing quality inspection use cases, then that flexibility will be available to you. And if it doesn't work, we are free to move on.
Thanks, and I think therefore, Hari, if you don't mind, I would then complete the loop of the other three whom I wanted to ask. So, does it bring the IT leaders to a point where you look for a partner who possibly has a competency to make sure, take care of your multi-cloud environment, take care of your network, take care of your security? Does that really work in a practical world? Maybe Sureshji, Sandesh, if you can react on that, and Shiva, Mike.
So I think I missed your question, if you can just repeat.
No, so while we're talking about this infra modernization drivers and some of the concerns we heard from the BFSI side, the manufacturing side and the services side of business, there seems to be, the drivers are in BFSI side of businesses, as we heard, that I think making sure your app strategy is right. At the same time, you need a secure network, secure app. Plus, on the manufacturing side, you have a different kind of challenges, the legacy infrastructure, plus remote workplaces, your network connectivity. So, possibly there is a need of SD-WAN kind of environment. But do you then, therefore, look for a partner who brings all of this in one plate, or do you have approach to work with 2-3 different partners? Would you put all eggs in one basket, or?
Of course, you can't put all eggs in one basket.
Okay.
Right. So I think from, if I were to say generally about any organization, I think we have to remember one thing, that IT is for business and not business is not for IT. Okay. So that's the fundamental thing which we need to remember at all times. And I was hearing comments from others. I think hardware modernization is, I think, given. That's very simple. So focus should be on the applications which can, I would say, not only fast, which should add to the business growth in some sense or the other. Okay, and it should be done. Sometimes it is not that you hold on to an investment and because it's a large investment. Just do that analysis, if that investment of say 5 CR, can it result in, adding to the business even by 0.5% or something, which could be much more than 5 CR. Okay, and so don't hesitate to, propose such solutions which can add to the revenue, profitability, or anything, the modernization or the digitization projects or initiatives which you can propose to the the board or to the top management. It has to give the business benefit. That's all I would say.
Sure. Sandesh?
Yeah. So
what kind of partner assistance you would look at? Sorry. What kind of a partner assistance you look at in this scenario?
Yeah, considering the digital roadmap, or rather the way the industry is growing and where we are leading towards, so I don't think one partner can help you for all sorts of this. So definitely we have to depend on multiple partners, which against as per the expertise they carries, and at the same time, as Sureshji is saying, that as a digital footprints, how to take it to the board, right? It has to be a part of your, you can say, a proposal with all aspects. So I believe that is what, basically it has to be a part of your journey.
Right. Thanks. Siva?
To answer to your question in a nutshell is whether we will consider one vendor to do all the consolidation and give it to you one thing. But I think maturity level has to come back because various needs of businesses comes from different vendors, and at this point of time, including security, I would prefer that we need to have our own control instead of giving it to one vendor who have to manage all the other things, because we are at the end of the day is responsible to our business in terms of suppose if you look at we are in the process of digitally transforming the process plants and take the data of through IoT and process it and do AML and give some predictive kind of things for the process. So there is a different kind of skills is required. And obviously, if any, our strategy now is whatever is the legacy applications is going to continue. Whatever is there as a business new transformation, transformative applications, they're all in the cloud. So it is all niche and it is going to be maybe function wise. So I don't think in near future we'll be able to use maybe to be frank, so TCL service to do consolidation and give it one dashboard.
Yeah. Thanks. I think interesting. I think, sir, one last view from you.
Can you repeat that question?
No, we were just asking you, do you think having one partner taking care of your multi-cloud environment, security, network, would that be a preferred approach by IT leader?
In my view, not necessarily be one partner. Based on the strengths of that particular individual partner, we would be leveraging the strengths of those individual partners and take the help of those people and ensure that that is being implemented. Because as we were discussing in the morning as well, that we have a BSC, balance scorecard, which is driven along with the shareholders. Then, for us, refinery, infrastructure is a backbone for refinery. So we ensure that we get the best out of the technology from the different partners. Definitely we won't go with one partner. Yeah, platform we can always decide, but yes, we may have to go with multiple partners to get the best out of those individual partners. Yeah, thank you.
And if I may just add, it is just like the organization business continuity planning. So not have one partner, with all your IT outsourcing.
Right.
You have to have, at least.
Sumesh, you being at DBS, how you look at this situation?
I agree with all these gentlemen. It's a kind of a BCP. We should not do that as in part of BCP, and this is also a bank strategy that we keep on having multiple business partners. But of course, if the capabilities are there, then we can also oversee that.
Right.
But as in corporate strategy, we don't put all in the one basket. So this is what we are doing as a bank.
Just to add what you said, in fact,
right.
It is also paramount that we should not risk our business.
Right.
Especially if something happens, to that particular reasons could be anything. Today, the geopolitical tensions are there, the kind of support we are getting from that particular vendor. Assuming that currently Russian company is actually, is there and you are actually more on the cloud and you are supporting some. Tomorrow it pulls up, the entire company comes to standstill. So basically, on a regular basis, there is a risk-based assessment keep happening and ensure that we minimize the risk to the extreme possible, right? And ensure that there is a business continuity. That's a priority of the organization.
Right. So therefore, I think this is the best time. Possibly, Hari, you can conclude now because.
I want to clarify. I didn't ask you to ask that question.
No.
I think you touched a raw nerve there.
So.
It was as if,
of course not. Why?
I think just like we all invest a lot in cybersecurity, I think
Right. No, my question actually, in fact, was in a line where, somebody like Tata Communication, who controls the marine cable, can ensure uninterrupted network. And I think in the years of, the last, especially decade, what we have been also witnessing, the kind of partner ecosystem they have built in around, be it in the area of security or SD-WAN, does that give them an advantage to position also as one-stop solution? So maybe, Hari, I think you are the best person to answer that.
So we have possibly done these kind of solutions for customers who are starting off, right? For an existing customer, what we have seen, because we live, when I saw the challenges which were played out by everyone. For example, if it is a banking area, we have created, we have not gone and just said we'll create a cloud. Okay, what we did is we looked at the RBI regulations and we tried to create a fin cloud primarily to cater to the cloud, having all the cloud features of app modernization and other. Those are all basic and it's out of the box. Honestly, there's nothing great which anyone brings. There are tools available which you may be using in-house. We bring that in a cloud environment and we brought that. But what we added on top of that is, can we actually put that regulation framework in place? So can we put that security control already in place? And can we actually generate those reports which you will require every month on month, right? Because we work with many of you who ask us for that data when we work only on cloud, right? So from a cloud perspective, we have done that. So we have a fin cloud, community cloud, which actually focuses. We did the same thing with government. When government actually wanted to start the e-marketplace, they started giving, the e-marketplace started as a small requirement, but now it's almost every central government project procurement happens through e-marketplace. The same thing we are trying to do with NHA, where all our data at some point in time, every individual citizen's data is going to be residing like Aadhaar, right? So when we looked at it, we have to now, and these are prominent cloud platforms which, trust me, everyone from outside India want to bring down, because it will be a showcase for them to bring it down. So when we tried to put some of those elements, we looked at not from a cloud, are we giving a cloud solution? We looked at cloud with security, with the necessary connectivity or whatever associated with it. So, but I completely don't want to go down the path that, we are coming together as, an outsourcer model or anything. What we do is we do a bit of everything. We do the entire journey from the point what we realized as far as security is concerned. Where is the weakest link? The weakest link is the person who owns the mobile or the laptop, right? And through social engineering, how does he get impacted? Simple behavior problem. The person doesn't go, he goes on a holiday with his laptop, he comes back, he doesn't have the critical patches. Should he come into the network? Okay. How do you handle it today, right? Can you isolate him, patch him, and then get him into your network? It's a simple methodology which you apply. So some of those best practices which we have been lucky to actually implement for our customers, especially I thank both the BFSI from a perspective of being stringent on security, because they are I would say, lack of better word, suffering through the regulatory framework of having to go back with regular reports, regular audits and all that. From a manufacturing sector, we looked at it very differently because I think some very good points which were raised. It's the network is not just, the old network, which was a WAN link which we provided. The network demand has increased exponentially because the use cases on the site has increased. So can we then look at edge? Can we look at the network for the site differently? So when we look at 5G, we look at IoT, we look at Wi-Fi 6 and video analytics, and with edge, can we actually ensure that the network in the campus is different? And then when it goes out, because these locations are, the mines are not in nice, pretty locations, right? Or rather, they are in extremely nice, pretty locations, but the hazard is, of a different kind, but they are middle of a forest, or, you can barely get a linear link in there. without, and we have, all kinds of issues, tribal issues, we have, laying issues, we have monkey issues, by the way, if there are antenna repeaters. So all those issues have to be tackled to reach some of these, difficult to reach sites. So some of the practices on the network side is something which we are bringing from the manufacturing side into the non-manufacturing side, because the manufacturing side network is a lot more challenging. Campuses are large, customers expect connectivity at every location. Once you roll an app, you actually make the person used to that app, okay? And if he doesn't care, if you have 2 Wi-Fi devices which are not synchronizing, okay, that's your problem. So some of those elements we have brought from the manufacturing side inward. As far as security goes, I think what we have done, we do a lot of work for the regulators in the country, especially in the financial sector. We manage a number of their environments, so on a dedicated model, because they are kind of hammered the most, and any news of them going down or them getting hacked will come on page 1, right? So in that scenario, some of those best practices is something which we adopted when we created our community clouds. So they go for extreme controls. There are more than 25, 30 controls, and all of them have to be automated. As far as security goes, I think I'm not trying to trying to sell here or anything, but I just want one element. Previously in our world, I think the app used to get developed, and then the infra was thought about, and then the security was thought about, or security and network was probably last to be thought about, okay? So now I think one good statement we heard from a large customer of ours, when I develop my application, I have the infra guy in the room, I have my security guy in the room, I have my network guy in the room, because all of them are very, very critical for my app to ultimately function. Now, how do you do that is, because the resources are limited, skill is limited. So that's something, where we kind of come in and play a part. Okay, so that's the consulting activity which we have to actually step in and support. We fully understand our responsibility, and that's something which we have done luckily in some of the larger projects, in actually supporting the customer during that journey. I think that's where I'll keep it. Yeah.
No, I think that was an interesting conclusion, Hari. I think the panelists here in the room would love to connect with you one-on-one and hear that use case in person. Maybe if you can't share in the forum here. With that, we come to an end of this conversation, and thanks for your pertinent views on infra modernization. With that, I thank each one of you again.
Yeah.
He's going to be here with us.
Thank you very much. I know it's like the end of the day. I can see, drooping eyes, suffering through. But, thank you. Thank you very much.